Now, we've seen it already with the persecution of Cardinal George Pell. Many state institutions now tend to lean left. That's the nature of collectives for you. But I'll give you now a new and bizarre example. Shocking, really. Christine Holgate is Australia's highest paid public servant. $2.5 million a year to be the boss of Australia Post, our government mail service. Now, arms of government aren't supposed to play politics. This is a democracy. But 2 months ago, Christine Holgate sat next to Queensland's Labor Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk at a Chinese Lunar New Year function in Brisbane. And later that night, the Premier sent Holgate an email. Christine, great night. Love to catch up soon. Now, the Australian newspaper now reports that Holgate that same night forwarded that email from the Premier to senior Australia Post executives, adding these words. I had a great catch up with Anastasia tonight. She is keen to catch up soon to understand how we, Australia Post, to understand how we could help with her upcoming election. How Australia Post could help Labor win the state election coming up. And the offer apparently includes things like a campaign targeter, which uses data and artificial intelligence to help campaigns target the specific audiences and voters that a party needs to reach. Joining me is National Senator Matt Canavan, the former Resources Minister and a Queenslander. Matt Canavan, great to catch up with you again. Australia Post says this offer of help is available to all parties. So what's wrong with Christine Holgate offering to help Labor?
Well, Andrew, very simply, if Christine can produce the emails which have her sending off to her senior executive team that she wants them to help Deb Frecklington, the LNP leader, with the upcoming election, that she wants them to help Pauline Hanson and the One Nation Party with their upcoming state election, and if she wants them to help the Greens, and I don't think they've got a leader in Queensland, but the Greens, the upcoming election, if she can produce similar emails to the one that you've just read out on your show, then maybe she's got a case and a point here that all political parties are customers of Australia Post, and they are trying to obviously serve their customers. But if all we've got here is just one email that is preferencing one side of politics, that is a potentially grave accusation and grave distortion of our democracy. Perhaps it's important here for an analogy for your viewers. Australia Post is extremely important in an election campaign because it delivers the direct mail that I know a lot of people probably are annoyed about, but it's the flashy, glossy documents you get during a campaign. Is very, very important, and most studies show it's extremely influential in campaigns. This would be like the Facebook, like Mark Zuckerberg being out there saying, I want to help Joe Biden with the upcoming election. It would be equivalent to that, because Australia Post is a vehicle like Facebook for political parties to get their message out and try and obviously put their thoughts in front of the voter first.
And as far as I can understand, the Queensland opposition was not given that offer of help. In fact, the leader, Deb Frecklington, says, I never got a call, I never got an offer from Australia Post. So goes to your point, Matt. I mean, this is quite extraordinary. And sinister, actually. But can I just ask you about Malcolm Turnbull? Now, you were a minister in his government too. He's written a book that really smashes the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, the Home Affairs Minister, Peter Dutton. What do you make of that? What kind of bloke is this?
Well, I am kind of hoping for my reputation, Andrew, that he has a crack at me too at some point. I haven't seen it yet, so well, I'll have to just wait till next week. But look, I had a very, in all seriousness, I had a constructive relationship with Malcolm. I think it's very, very sad. In some respects here, there's a similarity to Olympic gymnastics. You can perform splendidly on the high beam, but if you fail the dismount, you're not going to win the gold medal. And what we've seen really in the last couple of years, unfortunately, from Malcolm is not being able to deal with the thing that happened to him, which was the same thing that he did to a previous leader. It was all, I'm sure, extremely upsetting for him personally, as it is for any the leader of a political party to lose that position. But what are we now, a year and a half or something on at least? I'm not counting. It's a shame that can't be put in the past. And what seems to be, at least from the extracts we've seen, this book seems to be focused on raking over these hot coals, which really I think aren't that interesting to most people.
Now, Matt,
there's a lot of other things Malcolm could be writing about and speaking about.
I know,
and
being helpful. But Matt, look, your relationship, you say, was quite constructive with him, right? Fine. From a distance, my dealings with him were limited, brutal, and brief, but and ugly. I spotted him as a narcissist. Everything that he says of Scott Morrison, narcissist, brittle, couldn't take any criticism, volatile, a plotter. All of that applies to him. I mean, that's a guy that got no capacity for self-reflection. Is this the kind of bloke that you knew?
Well, look, I mean, Andrew, I'm involved in this to get outcomes and results. And are there people in politics with large egos that find dealing with criticism difficult? Sometimes even plot against their own colleagues. Does that occur in politics? Well, I'm not sure if I'm breaking any news here tonight on your show, but there's quite a few people probably in politics that share those personality characteristics. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So those things don't really, bother me all that much. What I'm concerned about is the outcomes, and ultimately, what happened that precipitated the change in leadership in the Liberal Party was a disagreement around climate policy and the National Energy Guarantee. It was legitimate for members of the party room to bring those views forward. And the outcomes that were being delivered by the leadership there at the time were not ones that unified the coalition party room. And we've seen under Scott Morrison, he was able to do that and won an election and deserves the plaudits for doing so.
Yeah, won an election despite attempts by Scott Morrison and his son to destabilise the campaign.
Malcolm Turnbull, his son, sorry, you probably mean.
Exactly right. Matt Canavan, thank you so much. Great to talk to you again. Thank you for your time.
You too, Andrew. Have a good evening.